It doesn't matter how brilliant we are in terms of core capabilities. We actually need to want to try. And in this time, more than ever in my living history alone, maybe yours as well, we now need to actually have the will to want to try.
Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to episode 7 of the Soldo Cashflow series. In the last episode, we talked to Sharon Pocock and learnt about the importance of a positive mindset and the impact that can have on a business's ability to adapt and thrive in really uncertain circumstances. This episode, we're hearing from Jonathan MacDonald. Jonathan is an award-winning author of the bestseller book Powered by Change. He's an internationally acclaimed speaker and an advisor to some of the biggest brands in the world, brands like Amazon, eBay, Google, etc. Jonathan's also worked with a large number of startups, and so he's here to advise on what sort of structures and processes need to be in place to successfully navigate through change and help them adapt and thrive in that environment.
Obviously, right now, a lot of companies at different shapes and sizes are trying to grasp what they can do to actually accelerate their growth moving forward, even though there's a lot of uncertainty. So I have 4 tips and tricks that you can use and apply immediately, and you can see which ones fit. Maybe some of them work better for you in your context, or maybe all of them would work for you. But I've observed that these 4, if done together or separately, can actually give you that type of competitive advantage in a time of this perpetual change and fast-moving uncertainty. The first is what I call elevation. Now, elevation is where we can actually increase our perspective of the business we're truly in by thinking outside of what we're normally myopically focused on. So, for instance, if we think that we're actually in the business of bookkeeping, we can accelerate and innovate ourselves from looking at it from an elevated perspective and thinking, what are we really doing that matters to people? Not just using the words that we would normally use, but actually what the output is. How can we describe what we do without using the industry-specific terms? Maybe what we're really doing is in terms of efficiency management. Maybe we're enabling something for people. Maybe we're actually removing the issues in people's livelihoods and business. So from an elevated perspective, we can then actually grow our innovation agenda outside of what we would normally say is the business we're in to the business we're truly in. If we think about companies that have really elevated well, they could start at being, let's say, an online bookstore and end up being a global retailer of everything. You could have a company like Uber who may have started in the kind of taxi firm way, but end up being a food delivery service as well. But these things aren't just alone for large organizations. You can do this as a small organization as well. Elevate your perspective away from the business you think you're in to the business you are truly in. Point 2 is mess finding. Now, in this time of any other times, there's a lot of mess going on around us. And if we look at where those messes are, I'm pretty sure that where there's a mess, there's a market. So if you look at society in general or your business, especially from an elevator perspective at large, where are there issues that you can address now? If loads more people are going online, but they don't really know what to do online, maybe in fact a tutorial service about being online would help people. You see, there's a mess and a market. The third is transposition. Transposition is actually taking a business model or a methodology from another industry or another company and applying it onto yours. So we're transposing an existing model onto how we do business. So if we take a really well-known model like Kickstarter, which is a crowdsourced platform, you might think, what's that got to do with me in my small business? That's not relevant to the world that I'm in. But actually, Kickstarter isn't about just crowdsourcing innovation. Kickstarter is linking passion to investment through an easy-to-use platform. Another way around of linking that together is that Kickstarter is linking passion to production through investment. You could argue that Airbnb is linking surplus to demand in an accessible way. What surplus do you have that could be linked to people's demand in an accessible way? What passion do you have that could be linked to production through investment? We can transpose anything we see onto what we're doing, especially if we have done that through the lens of finding a mess where there's a market, through an elevated perspective of a higher view of the areas in which we can innovate. They're the 3, however, they do require the 4th and final piece, and that is to have the willingness to actually test, learn, and improve. You see, a lot of us will have the skill to do these innovation opportunities and actually lean in to growth opportunities. Even with that skill, we still need the willingness, the actual willingness within us to actually try so we can test, learn, and improve. And throughout my years in business, I've noticed that it's that willingness, where there's a gap of that willingness. It doesn't matter how brilliant we are in terms of core capabilities. We actually need to want to try. And in this time, more than ever in my living history alone, maybe yours as well, we now need to actually have the will to want to try, even though it's hard and uncertain. And if we can adopt that willingness to our transposition methodologies in an area where there's mess that we can find from an elevator perspective, my personal belief is that we can truly thrive and be designed for perpetual change. Go to poweredbychange.com, or you can find me at jonathanmacdonald.com. You'll also find some masterclasses there where I can teach you how to be a professional speaker, how to create game-changing ideas, and maybe unfair competitive advantage, learn about the art of persuasion, and also make money while you sleep. If any of that would help, jonathanmacdonald.com or poweredbychange.com. I hope some of this adds value. Cheers.
Thank you again to Jonathan for those tips and for taking the time to put that together for us. Now, we've already heard over the last few videos a few things about how to get a great marketing strategy, how to have a positive mindset, and now how to adapt to make sure that you're making the best of whatever situation that you've got. In the next episode, we'll be getting some tips on how we take action and how we start to put one foot in front of the other one, even when things seem a little bit daunting. See you then.